What's up, everybody? This is Changing of the Hip Hop Guards, episode 7. This is the journalist Sinseer, and I'm with my partner, Uncle E. This will be our last segment for Hip Hop History Month of November of our top moments, but who knows? We may keep it going. I mean, November just doesn't mean Hip Hop History Month for 1 month. Some of us live it, so we may continue to keep the moments going. Why not? On this particular episode, I want to touch on a little experiment I did earlier this month for the year of 1991, which is a 30-year anniversary. If you were there, you know some of the hottest acts, some of the hottest debut acts came out in 1991. Some of them including the legendary Tupac Shakur, who dropped Tupacalypse Now. Nikki D, who was signed to Def Jam, dropped her debut album, Daddy's Little Girl. We also had Tim Dog, who did not bite his tongue whatsoever, caused a lot of controversy, and pretty much said what was on a lot of people's minds on the East Coast. We had the legendary Scarface coming out of the group, the Ghetto Boys. We had DJ Quick, who also had a protege by the name of AMG. They also had a group called Second to None, who also dropped, but that's another topic. We also had the Jizza, who went by the Genius. He was signed to Cold Chillin'. We also had Diamond Shell, who was signed to Cold Chillin' as well. I don't know if I mentioned Del the Funky Homo Sapien, who was Ice Cube's protege as well at the time. So what I did was I basically took that picture that was shown earlier of all the cassettes and asked my Instagram supporters who had the best debut solo album of 1991. And it was pretty interesting to see the comments, the interactions, the thoughts. When you go back to 1991, Uncle E, what were some of the standout solo artists that you can think of?
Well, the funny thing is, first of all, I like the poll that you did. I like these artists that you included. I laughed when I saw Tim Dog, to be honest with you. But the funny thing is that when Tim Dog came out, not for nothing, we were kind of listening to Tim Dog. You know what I mean? It was different, his approach and his style. But like you said, he didn't hold his tongue, man. He didn't bite it at all. And I think that was what kind of intrigued us, right? Because the West Coast was so, going at it so hard, and nobody really was saying too much, man. And I remember thinking like, yo, this guy is crazy. Like we it's like we were rooting for him in a way, I guess you could say, but at the same time we we're like, yo, he must have a couple of screws loose.
Right.
Some of the songs were good though that he had on there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say, what was he like, pre-DMX? Right?
Pretty much.
I mean, as far as
just a wildcat. Yeah.
As far as being out in the public,
right.
He had that same, Tim Dog, the growling and all kind of crazy shit. But the Genius, the Jizza, one of my favorite standouts for that time.
He was kind of on some smooth Big Daddy Kane type of,
right.
I think his first single was Girl Come Do Me, but I believe if you look on the inside inner sleeve, you can see early maybe talks of Wu-Tang. So we didn't know what was yet to come.
We didn't know yet, but I remember the video to that song.
Right.
And I listen, at that time I wasn't hating on it at all.
Nah, not at all.
Son of Berserk stands out, from Long Island. I remember he made an appearance on the movie, what was it, Juice?
Yes.
I don't remember, right? He had an appearance on there. So Son of Berserk, Diamond Shell. I think me and my friend were the only ones that liked Diamond Shell.
Wow. I really like Diamond.
I did too, but not too many people. I mean, at least around the people that I was around.
Right.
Me and one of my best friends were probably the only ones that had like his cassette and were playing his music, man.
Kind of probably maybe came out at the wrong time. There was other major artists. I only highlighted the newer artists that year, but you got to think Tribe Called Quest dropped that year. Leaders of the New School. There was other acts maybe overshadowing. I'm not sure what day Diamond dropped on, but you can get lost in the shuffle easily, and I think that's what he was a victim of in '91. So yeah, it was interesting to see the comments from those who remember that time in hip hop. I want to share just some of the comments that some of the viewers listed. Chican Real Estate says, my ass couldn't stop listening to that Quick when it came out.
Okay.
I can agree. Like Quick was, and at that time, anything from Compton, I always associated with NWA. So you didn't know if they were part of the group, proteges. So you kind of took a chance. It was a good chance. Signed to Profile Records, hit after hit, hit after hit. Tonight, Quick is the name.
Yeah. I something, and I probably get chewed out for this, but I wasn't a big DJ Quick fan.
I get it.
I tried. I listened to his stuff, but there was something about his voice. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I wasn't too much of a fan. I could listen to a song. I couldn't listen to a lot of DJ Quick.
Right.
I probably appreciated him more for production than as an MC, as an artist. Not saying that it's not that he was not good. I just couldn't get into it that much,
Right. I think I respected him a lot that he held down everything on his own.
Oh yeah,
production.
Yeah.
A visionary, bringing in groups like AMG and Second to None, and just being consistent, signed to Profile. So he was one of the earlier concerts. I seen Biz, Rob Bass as my first concert. DJ Quick came to town around the time Quick as the Name dropped, and I remember the fans being furious because dude came through and did like 2 songs and was out.
Oh,
and you can hear him on the mic like making fun of the audience members complaining. So yeah, he was mad cocky back in the day, but it was a good experience. So I remember, Quick as the Name being really heavy rotation in the Midwest.
Yeah. I know, that's what I mean. I respect him as everything that he's done, but like I said, with his music, I just wasn't too much of a fan.
Yukon FUKOV6 says Tim Dog was not messing around. He took no prisoners.
I agree.
Yeah.
I enjoyed his tracks with KRS-One. I don't know if you remember. He had.
Oh yeah. On the second album.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim. I mean, a lot of artists. I don't think we're calling too many artists out by name. There was like smooth subliminals, for the most part. Like Tim Dog was literally.
No, no subliminal, just direct hit. Direct hit. That's why I said I think he had like a death sentence or something. It just was raw.
And if you remember, him and Quick were really at each other's throat. You know what I mean?
He just came out with, what was it, Fuck Compton. Like, just that's it. Not even, just, yeah. Like you see in this picture where it says 2013 with a question mark, right?
Right.
Because supposedly he faked his death, or they say, I don't. Yeah.
Right.
Tim Dog's a wild boy. I heard that we had a lot of people actually looking for him. I think he owed some money or something crazy for these scams and stuff that he was doing.
Right.
And that's why they were saying that he probably faked his death, but I still don't know to this day where Tim Dog is, man.
Right. The craziest hip hop mystery.
Yeah.
Don Catalog says Dale had the most satisfying songs. Some of those earlier albums had bigger hits, but Dell's album had most consistent songs. Were you a Dell fan when he first
Yeah,
came out?
yeah, yeah. I was. I found him. I found his style pretty interesting, like different, right? And then you got to
Coming
remember,
from the lynch mob, coming from that.
right. It just was sort of totally left field, but I think that's what attracted me to him, And then again, being from the East Coast, with cats like Tribe and uh, even like KMD and De La Soul, like he just kind of fit sort of within that same type of group, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. I'm still to this day, man. He's very
Yeah.
creative.
Visionary, man. I mean, he
Mhm.
took what he had. I don't think he really agreed with that first album because Cube had a lot of direction. As you can see, the transition from his second album, that was, strictly Dell, and probably the situation he wanted to go in direction,
Mhm.
and get up out of that Ice Cube shadow. There was a big shadow, or maybe, you know, the pressure of living up to being Ice Cube's cousin.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Daniel M. Balez says, coming from Texas, Scarface was that tape booming out of everyone's system.
Scarface was that man. He
Yeah,
was, yeah. He had the voice, the president, everything. His rhyme style, lyrics. He had the whole package. He had the whole
right.
package. The charisma.
Ruffa 80 says, Godfather Don, dangerous. Were you a Godfather Don fan? It was under my radar. He came out in 91, but
No.
uh, he says that was his favorite album, 91. I'm not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey.
Paul Unit says Nikki D and Jizza are both especially slept on.
I agree. Nikki D, when she first came out, she came out strong.
Right.
She
Signed to
came out,
Def Jam.
signed to Def Jam. Remember
She first
I
lady
believe
signed to Def Jam.
I believe she was the first one. She had that video. Remember, she was like in a room and they had like all the like holograms and pictures of different artists
Yeah.
that were on Def Jam. I like Nikki D. I don't know what happened to her.
Right. Right. Definitely got lost in the shuffle. Sky Cameroni says quick, but both of their sophomore albums, as far as Dell and Quick, were better. So he's saying that their sophomore albums were better, but he was really feeling Quick and Dell back then. I noticed that you personally picked Ed OG. Can you expound on that?
Yeah. For the poll, I picked that OG. On your post. I think mainly because what first came to me was which one of those artists that you posted was I listening to a lot, right? As far as those albums even, and Ed OG was the first one that came to mind. Uh, you
I
know,
mean, he had string after string. If you think about it, I gotta have it.
I Gotta Have It is one still to this day one of my favorite.
One of the most profound, still relevant songs. Be a father to your child.
Yep.
Uh, Bugaboo was always one of my favorites. What else was on there?
Something I think that was interesting was hearing artists coming from other places outside of New York that sort of kind of had a vibe that we related to.
Right.
So,
And being from
again,
Boston.
yeah, I mean, not that Boston's that far, but still,
Right.
it's
Right.
different. But it was something about his presence, the way he rhymed again. Think of, you're talking early 90s, you know what I mean? So it's not till later when everything starts changing and the South has their identity, So for us, again, it's just his whole vibe, everything about Ed OG. I liked Ed OG a lot, so that's why I picked him on your poll.
No doubt. No doubt. And I don't think too many people would disagree. If they were there at that time, they
Mhm.
knew what type of impact. You
Right.
couldn't go a segment on Rap City or UMTV Raps without seeing I Gotta Have It played at least
Yeah,
once
at least once. It was.
every day for the
Mhm.
year of 91
Yeah,
and beyond. We touched on all the artists for the most part except AMG. Were you a big AMG fan?
I'm not gonna lie to you, AMG, I wasn't too familiar with. He didn't really hit my radar at that time.
Right. So going over what we went over, you being there in 1991, I listed probably 10 or more artists. We're going to do the top 5. Who do you think the people voted for as
The most?
the most, the best solo debut of 91?
Let's see. Wow. I want to say it might be between DJ Quick. Wow. DJ, I'm gonna say either DJ Quick or Scarface.
You are correct.
Really?
Quick being number 1, Scarface being number 2. Now,
Wow.
who do you
Okay.
think? Who would you put in the rest of the top 5? You got 3 more to go.
And the rest of the top 5. So we had Quick and Scarface. I'm gonna say Dell, Tupac, and this is gonna be in my order, right? I would say Dell first, then Tupac. That last one. Okay, let's see. Wow. I'll say Ed OG. So I'm gonna say Dell, Tupac, and Ed OG for the other 3
Dell,
slots.
LOG, and Tim Dog.
Really? Wow. So Tim Dog over Tupac, huh?
By one.
By one.
By
Okay.
one vote. Yeah.
But
So
I could see that. I could see, I guess, because that was Tupac's first one, right?
yeah. And if you think, yeah, it was cool.
It
Brenda's
was
Got a
cool.
Baby,
Yeah.
Trapped. It was cool.
It
It
was
was
cool,
cool.
but I guess thinking about, yeah, it makes sense because if you're thinking about the time when they came out, Tim Dog, whether you like this music or not, the impact it had because of what was going on at the time, I could see it.
He was more controversial. You know, controversy sells. Tupac wasn't quite controversial Tupac yet. It
Not yet,
was
right?
more thought provoking. Just getting into being the
Tupac
Tupac
that
that
we
we,
knew, right?
yeah. So yeah, that was real fun. Next month I'm gonna do best solo for groups, and I can't wait for that. Some of those groups, as far as solo debuts, include Organized Confusion, KMD for Mr.
Okay.
Hood, Leaders of the New School. Who else? Downtown Science. Quite a few that I'm very much looking forward to. A lot of debut artists, group wise, I didn't realize that came out. So be on the lookout for that. And I can't wait to go back and review the
Cool.
top. Yeah.
That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun. Yeah, I want to point something out to you real quick before we move on. So AMG, right? You see his shirt,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I don't know for those that might remember or don't know, that's was a brand called Gino Green Global, right?
Right.
Scarface in this picture, same thing. So it's funny because around that time is when they came out with this brand.
Right.
And looking around the other day, come across got my
Oh,
own
dope.
Gino Green. So this shirt was actually, I want to say, sort of like a test run, right?
Right.
Something they were playing around with, just playing around with the nines or like they say, you don't know if it's the 9 or the G's that's going to get you.
Right.
But it's two brothers from Freeport, Long Island. We were friends with one of them in particular. We used to hang out with all the time. And, they had their first shop located in Freeport and we were hanging out. And that's how I got this shirt. So it was kind of cool. I found it the other day and I found it kind of hilarious that the two pictures that we
Correspond.
present
Yeah.
has the Gino Green on.
How dope is
You
that?
know,
Must
but
be Must be a
Just
message in there somewhere.
yeah. But also, again, we're talking about hip hop. These are brothers that came from the hip hop culture, starting their own clothing line. They went on to be pretty successful with it, and then kind of disappeared. But shout out to them. So okay, moving on. I want to highlight the movie Wild Style.
Ooh,
Classic, classic film, Wild Style, right?
right.
Um, Came out in 1983. So it's actually been what 38 years since
Crazy.
the movie came
Crazy.
out. Yeah, right. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Um, Directed, produced, and written by Charlie Ahern in collaboration with Fab Five Freddy.
Right.
So Fab Five Freddy had the idea for the movie.
Hmm.
Around that time, sounds crazy saying it now, but around that time in 83 or before that, because I believe they started in about 1981 putting it together. But his concept was that around that time, there was a lot of negativity running around in media and people when it came to hip hop. He wanted to put something together that would you know, show the culture in a more positive way, right? Uh, and that's how the concept was created. So between him and Charlie Ahern, they start working on this concept. If you remember, in the beginning of the movie Wild Style, there's the like the drawing of Wild Style was sort of animated.
Hmm.
That was done by the graph artist Dante. So
Oh,
in around
yeah.
81, Charlie asked him to do that piece, uh, which then they used in the film in the animated parts. The mural that you see that everybody's really familiar with, uh, that was done by another graph artist, or three other graph artists actually, and that was a graph artist by the name of Revolt, Sharp, and I might be pronouncing this wrong, but I believe it's pronounced Zephyr.
Okay.
Might be wrong. Excuse, pardon me if I am. But so those three created the actual mural that you see all the time. That we're familiar with, like, the one that's on the cover right here.
Right.
They created that. Um, Fab Five Freddy, also plays one of the major roles in the movie as an artist named Fade, who, like we spoke about in the other series, the concept of his character was based on Phase Two, right? Then you have Lee Quinones, main character in the movie. He would go around tagging Zorro. He's also a graph artist, legendary graph artist from New York. Him and Fab Five Freddy actually collaborated together, running around on the subway scene and doing, you know, murals and all of that stuff. Um, so the other interesting thing about Wild Style, not really big when it comes to a script, right? There was dialogue and stuff like that, but it wasn't heavy on like a script or anything like that. Their main thing was more of capturing a vibe, trying to capture what the culture was, what was happening in New York at the time, right? So of course you had some interactions and simple scripts here and there, but nothing crazy, nothing Oscar
Right.
winning. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Right.
they did a good job as far as capturing the feel, right? So that's
Right.
why you had a ton of guest appearances and artists that played themselves in the movie, like Busy Bee, Cokehead
Right.
Brothers,
Right.
who else? The Rocksteady Crew, uh, Lee Quinones, Fab Five Freddy, like everybody and anybody that was sort of someone at that time was in this movie.
Right.
Uh, Double Trouble, Little Ronnie C, Double K Rockwell. Like I said, it's a long list of people. Blondie.
Blondie.
Blondie was the name of the group.
Debbie
Her
Harry.
name, yes, her name. But everybody you see her, you just kind of say Blondie, right? Just because that's the group that she was really known for.
Right.
Patty Astor, she was in there as well. She's the lady that plays doing the interviews, going around, after the kids. Uh, so Wild Style, very instrumental in kind of showing the world and capturing what the culture was. Um, so you had the graph, you had the break dances, you had the MCs,
MCs.
you had the DJ. Grandmaster Flash was in there. Grandmaster DXT was in there. Uh, what else? I mean, and then again, incorporating people like Patty Astor, who was very instrumental in the downtown scene, and she created a gallery called the Fun Gallery. So that was very instrumental in combining, these graph artists with the downtown scene. So there was a little bit of everything incorporated in this movie, which is
Right.
why it stands out. It was also sampled in a numerous amount of hip hop artists, like MF Doom used it in Food, Nas,
Nas.
which was very key, at least for us here, right? Because coming off of Wild Style in that whole era, then Nas comes out, and the very first thing you hear when you put that on in the beginning is the beginning of
Yeah.
Wild Style. So that, I don't know for you or maybe other people outside of New York what that impact was. For us, it made a big, big difference in how much we gravitated towards Nas in that first album.
Yeah, it was much later in Midwest for Wild Style. I think our first was stuff like Beat Street, Breakin', movies like that. But Wild Style was much later in Midwest.
Much later. Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you as well, because like I said, in New York, 83 is when it came out. Uh, and then it wasn't until in 84 when it started hitting other places,
Uh,
other cities and stuff like that. So that's a big gap between 83, and 80, even just 83 and 84. You're talking about a whole
right,
year later that other people
right.
started to get it. But so yeah, so I wanted to highlight the movie Wild Style because for me, uh it like I said, it captured New York and a whole vibe that I think because of this movie, it started to spread to other places.
Right.
Uh,
Were you
another
were
what's
you
that?
able to go to the theater to see it?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My first time watching it was in the theater. And then I was also able to go for the 30th anniversary. They did it at the Lower East Side Amphitheater, which is the location, the end of the whole movie where you see they do the big concert at is at the amphitheater on the Lower East Side.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So for the 30th anniversary, that's where they did it, to celebrate it there. I was able to go to that. A little bit of everybody was there. Rocksteady Crew, Fab Five Freddy, Busy B. I got to see Grand Wizard Theodore, Lisa Lee. Man, somebody like me is like being in a candy store, right?
Right.
A little bit of everybody was there. I just Little Ronnie C and Double K Rockwell do the famous scene, the rap stoop scene. Nas and AZ go on to do a commercial for Sprite, reenacting that scene, and apparently they were not happy with that. They tried to go to court, sue both Sprite and Nas and AZ, and I'm not sure where that ended up, but that's a little fun fact for everybody out there. You can go on YouTube and just type it in, Nas and AZ Sprite commercial. It'll come up. You'll be able to see that.
Right.
Uh, and another little fun fact: Little Rodney C ends up marrying a young lady by the name of Angie B. For those who might not know, Angie B is who we know as the R&B singer Angie Stone.
Oh, okay.
So they ended up getting married, and they're considered actually the very first couple in hip hop. A lot of people tend to give that to Tretch and Pepper.
Peppa. Yeah.
Right, right, right. But they actually way before that. So that's another little fun fact, coming out of Wild Style.
Very
And
dope.
yeah, so that's my
Salute.
highlight for Wild Style. If anybody hasn't seen it, which I just found out in the UK, for example, they did not see Wild Style until years and years later.
Mm,
It was not available on DVD or anything in the UK until a long, long time. Like you're talking about a few years later, they're way, way past that. So I just found that out recently from a post that I did. So, but if you haven't watched it, look for the DVD, find it somewhere. Definitely one that you should watch.
better late than never.
Better late than never. Back on you.
No doubt. One thing, interesting thing I came across yesterday was a 40th anniversary for the Sugar Hill Gang's second album. It had Apache on it, but I'd like to acknowledge these guys as being, some of the early pioneers in getting hip hop not only heard in the United States but around the world. So, I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge Wonder Mike, Master G, and rest in peace, Big Bank Hank. They were put together by Sylvia Robinson, who also was the founder of Sugar Hill Records back in the day. So their song, Rapper's Delight, I know everybody knows it, coast to coast, around the world, dropped in 1979, if you can believe that. It took some of Schick's Good Times and became the first rap single to become a top 40 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Has 5 different versions, the longest being almost 15 minutes long. I know you highlighted Jimmy Spicer, and he had a long.
He had a long one too, about the same thing, I think. 14,
right.
maybe.
A fun fact about Rapper's Delight is that we were talking about Debbie Harry earlier on. She had asked Nile Rodgers from the group Schick to come and perform at an earlier hip hop show in '79. From that, he agreed, and the band played Good Times. And during that performance, Fab Five Freddy, members of the earlier Sugar Hill Gang, jumped on stage and they just started freestyling to that, them on stage.
Oh, okay.
So about a week or two later, Nile
Okay.
Rodgers is up in the club and the DJ drops Rapper's Delight, an early version. He's like, yo, what the hell is this? There was no permission. They pretty much jacked the opening bass line from the group.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he ended up seeking copyright against the group, ended up winning a settlement outside of the court, but later said that this was one of his favorite hip hop tracks of all time. Had to change.
After he wins, and
he had a change of heart. You know what? I got paid, but you know what? This song is kind of jamming.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Fun fact.
That's a fun fact.
But can you imagine just being in the club and hearing your song come on, without your permission?
No. Yeah, I get it.
The group went on to drop, if you can believe, approximately 5 albums before calling it quits in 1985.
Wow, 5 albums?
5 albums. That's what I said.
Okay.
Last one being in '99, but it was like a children's album. So they got together for that album, but they called it quits around 1985. Like I said, recently the group's second album, Eighth Wonder, which had Apache, everybody knows that song,
Right.
turned 40, and I just thought that was a mind-blowing fact in itself. 40 years ago.
40, wow. And you're talking about what? Hip hop's 48, right?
So you know how old you were, you know how old I was when that,
Yeah.
we definitely were around when those singles dropped. Unfortunately, we lost group member Big Bank Hank in 2014 to cancer. I believe he had an issue, or Grandmaster Caz had an issue with rhymes being taken and used for Rapper's Delight. I'm not sure if Big Bank ever cleared that situation up.
I'm not sure. I mean, the story goes, like Cass has said over and over again, basically, it was he had a notebook with rhymes in it. I believe he used to do, not Kaz, but what was it? Hank? Not Hank. One of them used to be like security. He used to do security.
I can imagine probably Wonder Mike. He's the biggest out of the group.
I
But
think,
man,
right.
no
So
telling.
they did security, whatever. They were put in the group, like you said earlier. They put these guys together to form a group. He knew Kaz. Kaz tossed him his book, not knowing, what was going to be. And the legendary verse, which
Legendary.
he didn't even change. Like you would think, like, I'm taking somebody else's rhymes. Let me change it up a little bit. Like he says Grandmaster Caz's name in the verse, and that's not his name. I'm the KAS, whatever. The rest is FLY. Like, that's Grandmaster Caz, Grandmaster, name that he says in the verse.
Right.
Um,
Maybe that was
but
his way of giving him credit by
no, I don't
not
know,
giving him credit.
man. I
Nah.
don't think so. I think it was just at the time. You're talking about early on.
Yeah.
I think he just took it. Probably didn't even think about it. He probably didn't even realize that he was saying his name. I don't know, but that's. I want to say Grandmaster Caz is probably one of the first ghostwriters without being a ghostwriter, right? So, little fun fact too, though, or not fun fact, but my first experience I saw at a Beat Street anniversary, right, at BB King's. They did an anniversary for B Street, and the Sugar Hill Gang was there performing, and Grandmaster Caz came out on stage and performed the song with them. Prior to that, at least for myself, I had never seen that happen. I've only seen Grandmaster Caz on one end, always talking about the situation. I never saw that anywhere. So to me, I think that was a first.
Yeah.
But he got on there and did his actual verse.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. I have pictures and I might have some footage of that. So be on the lookout on our Instagram page. I'm going to share that.
Absolutely. The group, as of now, consists of Wonder Mike, Hen Dog, and Master G, and they still perform to this day. Most recently on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Like I said, I just wanted to acknowledge this group as being the first for breaking open and introducing hip hop worldwide. They were top 40 in the U.S., top 3 in London, and number 1 in Canada. So, when you talk about on a global scale, you may acknowledge others as being the first, but as far as a global scale, you can pinpoint it probably back to the Sugar Hill Gang. Rolling Stones magazine said that Rapper's Delight was one of the greatest songs of all time, coming in at 251 out of 500 songs.
Wow.
And on VH1's Top 100 Greatest Hip Hop Songs, they were number 2. And most recently, 2014, the record was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. So big shout out to all those guys. And like I said, rest in peace to Big
Big
Bang.
impact. Big impact, man. I mean, Sugar Hill, the label, right? Big, huge impact on hip hop.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, shout out to them. Shout out to Sugar Hill, man. And like I said, these guys are still, like you said, I mean, still out there doing their thing, man. Still performing. So shout outs to Sugar Hill.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. All right. So at this time, I kind of want to open up the dialogue a little bit, right? So this is our last episode for the month of November, as far as,
moments.
Right. As far as moments, celebrating hip hop culture. So I just want to kind of open up the floor and talk a little bit about hip hop culture. I do want to acknowledge a few women in hip hop, right? I want to mention people like MC Sha-Rock, Queen Lisa Lee, who was one of the first members. Well, she was a member of the Zulu Nation very early on, and still is to this day, right? She was the only female member of the group, the Soul Sonic Force. If you're familiar with the Soul Sonic Force, Africa Bambaataa and everybody. She was also in the movie Wild Style that I was just talking about. There's a scene with her and Busy Bee in the limo, and they're going back and forth, rhyme for rhyme. That's Queen Lisa Lee right there. She also was a part of the group. Well, her, MC Sha-Rock, and another young lady by the name of Debbie Deb. They go on to form a group, Us Girls. If you watch Beat Street, I'm sure you saw them in Beat Street, performing. So, Debbie Deb is somebody else I want to make mention of. And there's a long list, right, of females and women that were early on in hip hop and made an impact. You have DJs, Jazzy Joyce, Coco Chanel, the original Spinderella. Who else? Lady Pink in the Graph World, who was also in the movie Wild Style, played a leading role. the
Right.
girlfriend of Lee Quinones, right? She was very instrumental. You know, they have her as one of the first females in, you know, that was active in the graph world, you know, as far as going out and getting up on subways. Um, you know, that's, you're talking about early 80s. You know what I mean? So she was out there. She started a crew called Ladies of the Arts. She was also down with two legendary graph crews, TC5, which stands for the Cool Five, and TPA, the Public Animals. These are legendary graph crews, and she was down with them. That just goes to show you, you know, I mean, how nice she was. Um, you know, who else? I want to make mention of Martha Cooper,
Mm.
very instrumental photographer, capturing early hip hop days, documenting hip hop culture. And like I said, the list goes on and on. You know, we can talk about Lauryn Hill's Rhapsody, Bahamadia, right? Uh, you know, who else?
Could you
Well,
even mention Debbie Harry?
Debbie Harry's in there too, right?
That
Because again, she's kind of like the Fab Five Freddy from that world, right?
bridge. Yeah.
She's the bridge, and you know they say in commercializing. I don't know if that's, you know, some people when you look it up, that's how they label it. I don't, you know, and I guess I could see what they mean is because it helped bridge the gap between two different scenes, right? You had Uptown, the Bronx, and all of that coming down to the downtown scene. Now it's in a whole different world. Different eyes are seeing it. So I get what they mean by that, but I think it just she was just instrumental in helping broaden, right, the culture.
Right.
Um, Brought it to art galleries, clubs in the downtown scene, and you know, then next thing you know, it's $1 billion industry
And
worldwide.
I just mentioned how she probably indirectly brought that Sugar Hill gang together by inviting Chic to perform. Here
Right,
comes the Sugar Hill gang. They get a deal, and you know she's very instrumental early on. So
right. So another thing I want to touch on is that, right? So there's a lot of talk about Latins and their role in hip hop, Caucasians, their role, you know, when did they come in? Are they part of it? Are they not part of it? And just like we just talked about right now, right? You're talking about early 80s, people like Deborah, Patty, Charlie, you know, they were there in the
beginning
beginning,
79, we're
right?
talking 79, 80, 81, 82, 83.
Right in the beginning. So whether they played a role as far as being an MC or this and that, maybe not, but they played a role in documenting, exposing, right, to other parts, other cultures that wouldn't have known about it, maybe, or at least not right away. So to me, that's being a part of the culture. You
Absolutely.
know,
Even a guy like Ted Deming with the
Ted
MC,
Demi, yep,
who would
same
have,
thing.
you know,
Ted Demi, you know, what's his name from Loud Records, Steve
Steve
Rifkin.
Rifkin.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You know, you could
Rick
keep going
Rubin.
on and on. Rick Rubin, you could go on and on and on. And then the same thing for Latins in hip hop. Lee Quinones, right? Famous graph writer, played in Wild Style.
Power
Rocksteady
Rule.
Crew, Power Rule. You could go on and on and on. So I don't
Kid
know,
Frost. Yeah.
Kid Frost. I don't know where that came from. I spoke to Volcano from Power Rule. We talked about this. Like I don't know where that whole you know, are they a part of it? Are they not? Are they visitors? Are they guests or whatever? Look, people can have their opinion on that. My opinion is if you were there from day one and had something to do with it, then you're a part of it.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Right.
Um, you know, and just to also mention from starting early 70s to where we are now, like who would have thought that we would be doing so much outside of, let's say, just the music? You know, you take MCs are acting, authors, professors, uh, you know, graph artists that started tagging are now doing stuff for corporations, right? Whether they're logos or campaigns, they're doing that. Dancers, we're in the Olympics. You know what I mean? Breakers
Right.
from scraping their elbows and knees up on the concrete outside to now on the big stage like the Olympics.
Right.
Whether you agree with it or not, whether you think that's commercial or whatever have you, the fact is that it went from the corners of the streets to this huge platform of the Olympics, right? Um, Talking about authors, right? I just got this yesterday, man, as a gift from my mom's. Will Smith book that
I
just
seen
came
that.
out.
Very dope.
Um, I mean, who'd have thought, right? Kid from Philly, uh, rhyming to huge, one of I would consider one of our biggest actors, right?
Right.
Has been in blockbuster movies, putting out books. So this is just to mention about from where hip hop started at to where it is and where it's going.
Right.
Uh, 48 years of hip hop culture doesn't seem to be stopping or slowing down.
And we just got two of our heroes inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Two of our heroes, right? You had Jay-Z, LL Cool J. You had the pleasure of speaking to DJ Creator
Oh yeah, very much so.
recently. So for all of those, watching this, make sure you check out the Journalist Sincere platform on YouTube. You can find that interview there. Um, yeah, it's man, what could you say? We get to experience this and see it firsthand. It's not like somebody talking to us about Motown, for example.
Right.
We have to go back and look it up or whatever. We still have a lot of our pioneers and legends alive. And, you've had the pleasure of interviewing some. I've had the pleasure of interviewing a few. And, we get to enjoy it. Once again, we shouted them out before on our last episode, but I want to shout out the Universal Hip Hop Museum.
Yes.
Again, 2024, they should be up and running fully. You can make your way out to the Bronx. Right, it is in the Bronx.
Yes.
2024, and check that out once it's up and running fully. I mean, I know now they do certain things, but it's going to be really nice to see that grand
Man,
opening, right?
man, I can't wait. That's just a reason to stay alive is that moment right there. Like that has to happen for anybody who's a real hip hop fan. Like that has to be on your bucket list of,
Yeah.
things to do.
Yep, for sure, man. So, what am I leaving out? Uh, Breakdance Crews, Mighty Zulu Kings, New York City Breakers, the Rock Steady Crew, and a numerous amount all over the world, right, of breaking crews that are out there. Uh, Women, nice as hell at breakdancing. Uh,
Can't forget about the West Coast pop lockers.
the West Coast Pop Lockers, man. Rest in peace to Animation, man. He was one of my favorites. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he was one of my favorites coming out of the West Coast. The Boogaloos. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Electric Boogaloos as well. Shout out to Mr. Wiggles and everybody, Poppin' Pete. Uh, and again, DJs, right? Turntablism and just DJs, the Rock Raiders and uh, Executioners, the Supermen. The list is so long, man. And I just want to make mention of some of these so that if you're watching this, just go do some research.
Research.
You know
Right.
what I mean? If you're an artist, man, research some of these graph artists that were out before that you can probably see and get inspiration from. Dondi, Basquiat. I mean, there's so
Fades.
many. Uh, and let me ask you a question: how in Indiana, right?
Right.
Uh, what could you say about the hip hop scene in Indiana as far as going back? Or what's your earliest memories of?
I really have to contribute everything to my older sister. She's no longer with us,
Okay,
but she would go to the record stores, man, and just come back with the 12 inches, the Sparky D's, the
Sparky D,
UTFOs.
Roxanne Shante, man, gotta make
Yeah, that was my that was my way of tapping in. I was too young. I remember her going to a concert and it broke my heart. I thought I was going with her. But I have to understand she's 4 years older than me. She doesn't want her punk little brother joining her, older
right.
friends. But the tour was it was 91 Fear of Black Planet tour.
Ooh, okay.
1990. Anyways, it was where
Yeah,
Trouble T. Roy passed away in Indianapolis. That was the night he passed away. He
Oh
had
wow!
fell off
Or
of.
fell off the what was it, like the stage or something?
Nah, it was actually there was like a walkway, and they were playing around. I think somebody rolled a trash can. He jumped up
He
and fell over the top.
fell over, right. Yeah, wow. I didn't know that was okay.
Yeah, that was
Forgot that was it.
Indianapolis, 90, 91.
Mm.
Wasn't my first concert, but I remember, just always wanting to tag along. She was my everything as far as tapping into the music, as far as staying up to date with the music. Whether it was Run DMC's, like I said, anybody, she was bringing that home. As far as a scene, we had the local jams. Of course, I was too young, but I would visually see, whether it was picking her up from those and sticking my head in there. Um, but we always got, the movies, like I said, the Beat Streets, the Break-ins, stuff like that. And just the video channel, man. I wish we could have had the video music box, but there was other shows, Soul Train,
Right,
would
right.
dibble and dabble with hip hop. I think earlier on, Don Cornelius was not feeling hip hop, but
Yeah,
it was
he had
something
some
that.
acts on there.
What's
He had
that?
like he has some acts on there. Like I know,
No,
like
they
the Run
eventually he
DMC and
eventually admitted that it's undeniable. This is what the people
mhm,
want to see. It's not about me. He
mhm.
was reluctant, but they had a lot of hip hop. But earlier on, it just was kind of in.
He was he was one of those reasons why Wild Style came out.
Right, right. So yeah, the scene was slow, earlier on, but it was definitely, we heard the messages earlier on, we heard Rapper's Delight, but it was very slow. You got to understand, we didn't grow up around the graffiti. We had breakdancing, but it wasn't like New York City's breakdancing.
Right.
So it was thriving, but earlier on, I would say my sister was a big influence in introducing me to hip hop.
So we got to give a huge shout out to your sister, man, because I'm
Absolutely.
sure she's smiling and happy as hell that her little brother is the person he is today, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
man.
I give it to her. Also, I had a cat around who he was interesting. He would buy a brand new tape, right? Listen to it and give it to me.
That's a good friend.
But it'd be a whole shoebox of that type of situation.
Wow.
Like he just
Okay.
didn't keep it. He listened to it to see what it was about, and
Just toss.
so that's where my earlier collection started off at. And
Nice. Nice.
just having people around me like that who were in tune, because I couldn't drive at a certain age to go get by
Right.
all
To
means
go.
necessary, or it
Yeah,
takes
yeah, yeah,
extra
yeah.
millions. I was 14.
Right.
You know what I mean? So big shout out to people who were older than me and influential in helping me gain knowledge earlier on.
Right. All right, that's cool, man. That's cool. So, once again, shout out to those people. Shout out to your sister, man. And but yeah, so that's what it's about. Like I said, for me as a young kid, you know, traveling. My father lived in the city in Manhattan, New York. At that time, early '80s, whatever, you came outside and that's all you smelled was hip hop. Right? It
Man,
was just everywhere. Whether it was the music playing from somebody's boombox, whether you were on the subway looking at all the pieces and tags. It looked great. Like when you go back and look at it now or think about it, it was like, wow, it must have looked so crazy. Like as far as I could see why some people were so against it because you get on a subway and it's just tags everywhere, inside, outside,
right,
walls. Like it just was crazy. But as a kid, you're not thinking of it like, oh wow, they just destroyed that building or something. You're looking at it like, wow, look at those colors.
right,
Like, you know what I mean? Look at that. Wow, look at that character. Look at Mickey Mouse. Like you're just absorbing all of that. So, um, man, I had no choice. It was just,
there,
it was in the air. It was in the air.
yeah,
You're walking around, you see the kids on the corner, breaking, popping, and all of that. Groups of people around them, throwing some change in the bucket or whatever. Um, man, it was just something you lived. So I want to say that because of that, movies like Wild Style Beat Street that try to incorporate some of these things that were just taking place, that's what made it pretty cool for
Authentic.
us.
Right.
You're right. Like I've heard some people that participate in these movies saying like, "Oh, that movie was corny or it was cheesy," but they were in it, right?
Right.
But as somebody that just loves what they were growing up around, and you
Mm-hmm.
get to go to a movie and kind of see certain elements of this in there,
Right.
for example, I had a friend of mine. His name was Danny Sanchez. He used to always go around tagging everywhere. One day we go to see the movie The Last Dragon. You remember The Last Dragon?
Oh yeah, Bruce
Right? Bruce
Leroy.
Leroy. So we had the movie theater um, watching The Last Dragon, and there's a scene in Last Dragon that they shot, like on the block or whatever. And we're sitting there, and what do we see? One of Danny Sanchez's tags on the wall. And we're like, oh, that's Danny. So that's just to show you like how it was just it's just what it was, man. It was life. Like that's why I always refer to it as a lifestyle, you know, because it was what was happening, and you absorbed it and you became a part of it almost without even realizing it, right? Whether it was the clothes that you wore, the way you spoke, the style of dress, your walk. Um, it's just what it was.
I
It's
miss
just
it.
what it was.
I miss that time. But back then we were like, man, we wish we were from New York. Watching movies like The Warriors.
The
Um,
Warriors. Oh my God. Speaking of the Warriors, somebody else, let me take a time to uh, mention the Zulu Nation. Uh, I know you can go so many different ways these days, speaking about the Zulu Nation, because of what's been going on, you know what I mean? But taking that away, you can't deny the fact that the Zulu Nation played a big role when it came to hip hop culture. We're talking about hip hop is celebrating 48 years, they're celebrating 47. This is their 47th anniversary. So they've been around, you know, pretty much since day one.
right.
And whether you agree or disagree, the ideology of, you know, positivity, having fun, and all of that stuff in hip hop, it played a big role. You know what I mean? They are pretty much considered like one of the founding families in hip hop. So I just wanted to shout them out because although there's a lot going on with the controversy surrounding Africa Bambaataa, that doesn't take away from the people that are part of the Zulu Nation that have been doing a lot of great work and are still doing a lot of great work in the communities worldwide, helping a lot of those less fortunate when it comes to youth, troubled youth, getting them off the streets. So I'm one of those that doesn't feel that the one person, should destroy a whole movement, right?
Right. Right.
Unfortunately, that one person was sort of the face. So it's hard. It's hard. A lot of people don't have that, can't separate the two, right? They can't, if you say the name, they just automatically associate it with that one person. And they
Right.
don't look at it as all these individual women, men, young youth that are in this, and also I want to give a shout out to the Zulu Union, who's a group that were part of the Zulu Nation that ended up separating themselves amidst the controversy and started their thing called the Zulu Union. So these are all chapters that are also around the world, and they're still to this day doing the same work. But again, they wanted to kind of make that separation so that they weren't associated and are able to continue the work that they're doing.
Right. Big
So
shout out to
shout
Zulu.
out to both, man. Shout out to Zulu Nation because, like I said, I was a part of the Zulu Nation for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I've met a lot of great people through them, and there's a lot of genuine uh, people still involved that care,
Right.
about
Right.
community
One,
and
one
care.
one bad apple doesn't.
Exactly. So I just wanted to make mention of that as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I just want everybody that's tuning in and checking this out to make sure you do some your research,
Absolutely.
learn as much as you can if you're involved with this thing we call hip hop. And even if it's just for fun, man, you never know. You might find some fun things here and there that you didn't
We're
know.
still learning stuff that we didn't know, aka DJ Cut Creator. Go back and check out that interview if you haven't. You may learn a thing or two, just like me and Uncle E did.
Oh yeah. That was a pretty interesting interview, I must say. Shout out to you.
We thought we knew it all. We thought we knew it all from that era, but little did we know we, are still learning. And like Uncle E says, we urge you to go back. We highlighted throughout the month of November, Aerosmith and Run DMC, Jimmy Spicer, Video Music Box, shout out Ralph McDaniels, UMTV Raps, and many others as far as the graffiti scene, phase 2, right?
Phase 2. I spoke about phase 2. I shouted out. I highlighted Dougie Fresh. I guess you could say we both highlighted Fab Five Freddy, right? Because Yo MTV
Oh
Raps.
yeah, Fab's been all throughout this month of November.
Yeah, Wild Style.
Posse tracks that
Posse
have
tracks.
changed and have impacted the culture.
Hardcore hip hop, right? We talked about the
Hardcore, that moment. Yes,
consciousness in hip hop. We spoke about.
absolutely.
There's so much more we could touch on. It's very short. 1 month isn't long enough to cover 48 years of hip hop, but
Right.
we're
This is a
here.
start.
Yeah.
This is a very good tutorial for somebody who may have just started getting into hip hop. People get into hip hop every day. We can't just act like, they've, so this is a good starter pack for those who are interested in the culture and its origins. So, that's what we're here for. And that's what we'll continue to do, not only for the month of November. We live this, it'll be,
That's why it's called changing of the hip hop guards, man. We're just here to do our part in the preservation of hip hop, man. Preservation of hip hop and the continued education of hip hop, right? That's what
absolutely.
we're here for.
And to just remind people, what I mean, and point the arrows to where your favorite rapper has come from,
Right.
these days.
That's right. So make sure you subscribe, like, and share our platform, CHHG Podcast on YouTube. That's short for Changing of the Hip Hop Guards. Make sure to follow us on Instagram under CHHG Podcast. Follow my partner over here, the journalist Sinseer, both on YouTube and on Instagram. Myself, it's me, Uncle E, on Instagram. And you can follow and subscribe, like, and share the YouTube page, Get Yours Posse. Both of our own platforms, you can find some interesting interviews, as well as other things like, our day-to-day vlogs, right? Things
Right.
that we might just share on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
So Sinseer, once again,
It's been a pleasure.
been a pleasure. Everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for
Yes,
supporting, and we will see you on the next one.
absolutely. Shout out
Peace.
to everybody who viewed. Peace.
Peace.